The vultures circle their prey while flying high in the sky. And when they finally pounce, they strip their victims down to the bone, taking everything, including the dignity of their victim. It's impossible to fight back. There are growing complaints across the country about a very different kind of vulture. And their victims, they are disabled.
I want to get my life back. I want everything returned to me that they've stolen from me.
Their victims, they are elderly.
I want to go home.
96-year-old Margaret Langerby may spend her final days separated from her family. They will need permission from strangers to even visit. We had to sneak a camera into one visit just to show you this.
Mother, it's hard for anybody to see walking through here with one light on.
But it smells like dog pee.
This is what happens when courts appoint guardians to replace families. This is what happens when the lawyers swarm.
That's rotten lettuce. That is so unsanitary.
This is like a little circle of thieves, okay? That's what they are.
It begins with a wealthy parent, a relative who likely wants a bigger cut of the estate than they think they might get. It ends with a collection of doctors and lawyers and experts who can control your mom or dad's every move.
More than my mother losing her assets is that my mother has lost her family. I've been robbed of time with my mom. Prisoners, people who are incarcerated, get more visitation time than my mother does.
Imagine strangers eating away at the inheritance your mom and dad worked for all their lives for you.
Ching, ching, ching. That's what churning is.
The U.S. Senate Committee on Aging has now issued the warning about the 1.5 million Americans under guardianship control.
In many cases, guardianship is a blunt legal tool that transfers all decision-making power about the life of a person to someone else. Guardianship can also put a person at risk for abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
Conservatorships made national headlines when Britney Spears fought to stop the people controlling her life and money for 13 years. But there are 1.5 million people whose lives are being controlled today, often by total strangers. Nowhere are the cries to end the guardianship game louder than here in Orange County, California, where they call it by a different name, conservatorship.
Happy birthday, dear Jody. Happy birthday to you.
Marty Adair sings happy birthday on a voice message for her daughter Jody. It's a memory Jody will always cherish.
This is your mama calling to wish you a happy birthday. I love you. Miss you.
It was just months before strangers sought to take over every decision in Marty's life. She would die in the control of the courts. She's been dead for almost a year, but the lawyers, they're still fighting over what's left of her money.
It's been a nightmare. The whole thing has been a nightmare.
Marty Adair was married to her husband Richard for 55 long years. In 2015, their only son set out to declare them both incompetent against the sisters' wishes. Marty and Richard would spend $300,000 fighting back. He was put into a conservatorship, she escaped, and he died soon after. But Marty's biggest fight lay ahead. Millions more of the family money might now end up in the hands of strangers, all because just one relative sued again to get Marty declared incompetent again, with dementia, again against the wishes of her daughters. His Irvine attorney, Eric Becker, wanted this guy named as temporary conservator over Marty, Richard Huntington. He makes a living as a professional fiduciary. On his website, Huntington brags about seminars called It's Your Money, It's Your Estate. But that's exactly the opposite of what happened to Marty Adair.
This time, my mom was cut off immediately from her finances. A millionaire can't even have $50 cash in her pocket.
Forget the definition of temporary, too. 4 years later, Richard Huntington is still part of the legal fight over Marty's money, long after she's dead. And her daughter doesn't mince words when she talks about him.
He's an evil man. He's an evil, evil man.
The real battle once the strangers took over was the fight over the biggest part of the inheritance. This property was Marty's pride and joy, the American Way Cultural Center in Orange, California. It was a popular event center. It may have had building issues and past due taxes, but it sat on very pricey land. And that, Jody believes, is part of the racket here.
If they sell these properties for less than they're worth, they are stealing money from the incapacitated person or alleged incapacitated person and any future heirs. That is the worst kind of evil to me.
Court records show one of the lawyers moving to take over Marty's life first tried to value the property at just $3 million. The daughters thought it was worth $20 million. Then it was appraised by court order, and it came back at almost 10. Sussman called that appraisal fraudulent, part of the racket. Marty and her daughters planned an escape by taking that property into bankruptcy for protection and a move out of California, like a lot of other Californians, to Texas, where Judge Weldon Copeland ruled Marty was of sound mind and didn't need a guardian. The state of California simply ignored that. And in bankruptcy court, the American Way Cultural Center was finally sold for $16 million, 13 more than that lawyer claimed it was worth. A real estate company, Fiduciary Real Estate Services, got $835,000 in commission from that one sale. That company is owned by Ruben Martinez and Teresa Gorman, big players in the conservatorship game, part of what Jody Sussman calls the cabal. On the California Bar Directory, Teresa Gorman lists the same address as Richard Huntington does. Eric Becker, he used to have an office in the same building. But it's the money that's at the heart of this scandal in SoCal. 2 years after the creditors were paid off, the bankruptcy of this dead woman is still going on. Richard Huntington now wants to get paid another $192,000 for the time he spent as the stranger in charge of Marty Adair's life. Attorney Eric Becker, he wants $250,000 more for his work as Huntington's attorney. He wants another $194,000 for his work in the bankruptcy case. They both wanted much more money and might have gotten a lot more if Marty hadn't died on them. Huntington has already been paid more than $325,000 just in the bankruptcy case. And he hired attorney Richard Gallibo to handle the bankruptcy. His payday, nearly $500,000. Gallibo bills at $685 an hour. And he brags in court filings about how much his staff bills. Quoting, "In my world of bankruptcy, we have paralegals billing out at upwards of $400 an hour." You gotta love lawyers.
They've enriched themselves over the dead bodies and hard work of our elderly Americans.
Before she died, Marty told her daughter she knew there was no getting out. A lot of her children's inheritance, millions it turned out, would go to the lawyers.
What do I do? And it's like, Mom, I don't know. They say the only way out physically and to save your life is to agree to let them liquidate all your property. And then, God willing, you're going to end up with a dime to live on.
Why didn't the conservatorship of Marty Adair end the day she died? Why are the lawyers still lining up to get paid? They're now in front of a new judge in the case, Ibrahim Betier. He's held 2 hearings and a third one is planned for May 18th. We wanted to record the last hearing so you could see a taste of Orange County probate justice in action. Samantha Morris Jones, one of the many lawyers in this case, she didn't want you to see how the sausage is made. And neither did Richard Huntington. And after a big speech about how welcome everyone is in his court, the judge said no to us too, then unceremoniously kicked us out of the Zoom court hearing. We filed a complaint with the California Commission on Judicial Performance, and we checked the judge out.
Smith's current public defender, Scott Sanders, says prosecutors obtained confessions illegally from his client.
LA Media reported the judge was fired from the Orange County DA's office for withholding evidence in the Sunset Beach murder case.
The truth is they were going to let Mr. Smith die in prison without him ever having that evidence. That was the plan.
Now he's wearing a robe And it's time for the judge to end the gravy train. If he cared about transparency, he'd let us record every last word in court. Jody Sussman hopes the sunshine brought from this investigation will expose all the vultures.
I'm not standing here alone. There are 30 to 40 people standing with me who have been subjects of the exact same thing.
There's already documented scandal in SoCal. Sally Cicerone was a professional fiduciary accused of bilking clients, including taking money from a dead client she no longer even represented. Advocates say Cicerone's investigation should have led to a much bigger crackdown.
So I was really worried about my parents, and I'm the one that contacted the court and asked for a court-appointed attorney, not knowing at all that we were getting deeper into the corruption.
Lori Schiller, her mom Hilda, and dad Art were under Cicerone's care. Teresa Gorman was the woman appointed by the court in that case. Small world in SoCal.
I used to talk to my mom every single day, and that was not allowed. I wasn't allowed to see them very often. I was punished, I believe, for blowing the whistle.
Schiller says Gorman's husband, Ruben Martinez, was also put in charge of caring for all of Cicerone's clients' properties.
It's all incestuous. They're all involved with each other. They all help each other out.
Suhail Khalil filed a lawsuit for elder abuse against Teresa Gorman and Ruben Martinez.
Let's call it for what it is. It is literally Orange County mafia.
Khalil says the folks at FRES tried to undervalue the house when they were liquidating his parents' assets.
Commission. It's commission. The fastest commission, the quickest way out.
Victims tell us it's always an uphill and sometimes futile battle against all the lawyers.
But here's the problem. You're fighting lawyers who can go forever. Because when you're fighting them, who are they billing? The court doesn't pay.
It's like living again. I'm running into so many people that I've known in the Bay Area, my professional fiduciaries.
While the families suffer, California professional fiduciaries, the folks who make money off these family fights and tragedy, well, they seem to be living it up. Wine for everyone, and live music too. How fun! The courts have allowed a cottage industry to thrive, often at the expense of families. The growing victims of this courtroom abuse have complained to the Orange County Board of Supervisors that the courts are simply not protecting Californians.
I have been an eyewitness to the crimes of fraud, theft, racketeering, and embezzlement against them.
Now Advocates for Change have started a website in advance of a 9 a.m. rally on May 18th at the temporary Orange County Courthouse in Costa Mesa. It's called Conservatorship and ProbateAbuseSoCal.com.
Our courts are so corrupt, so biased, and that's why I'm talking to you.